There was a time in my life when I could not leave the house. Not because I didn't want to, not because I was lazy or tired or uninterested, but because something inside me had just broken. Something deep and unseen. And it made the whole world feel unsafe. I would stand by the door, hand on the knob, and still not be able to turn it. My heart would pound. My legs would shake. My mind would say, just open it. Just go outside. But my body wouldn't listen. I had become a prisoner in my own home. I kept the blinds closed. I checked the locks over and over again. Didn't go to the store. Didn't walk to the mailbox. Didn't feel the sun. Days blurred into nights. Season after season, I stayed inside. Days blurred into nights. I would clean, cook, care for my kids. But inside, I was shutting down, piece by piece. I didn't even know what was happening to me. I just knew I was afraid all the time. You see, trauma doesn't always come with bruises. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in shame, in fear that just doesn't make sense, in a voice that whispers, you're not safe, even when you are. There are seasons of life that don't make sense unless you've lived them. Seasons where you're thankful, deeply thankful, and yet still unbearably heavy inside. You look around, and you see reasons to be grateful. You survived. You escaped. You're breathing. You're still here. And yet, something feels empty. That emptiness doesn't mean you lack faith. It doesn't mean you're ungrateful. And it does not mean God failed you. It means your body and soul have been through more than words can hold. I know this because I lived it. For a long time, my life was shaped by fear before I ever understood what fear was doing to me. I learned early how to stay quiet, how to read rooms, how to tell when danger was coming by the way a voice changed or a door closed too hard. That kind of awareness, it doesn't just turn off when the threat is gone. It embeds itself. Years later, as a grown woman, as a mother, I found myself in another situation that slowly unraveled me. It didn't begin with violence. It began with control that wore the disguise of concern. I was timed when I left the house. I was questioned about where I'd been. The phone had to stay close. Errands had to be quick. Mistakes were not allowed. I was pregnant, exhausted, already carrying children and responsibilities, old wounds that never healed. I tried to keep peace. I tried to keep myself small. I tried to believe that it would get better. But fear does not shrink when you accommodate it. It grows. Eventually, the control turned into terror. One night, 7 months pregnant, I stood in my own home as accusations poured out of nowhere. And then he reached for a gun. He pointed at my head. Click. I didn't know it was empty. My body didn't know either. Then he pointed it at my unborn baby. Click. Again, click. And again, click. 4 times. Those sounds did not leave when the night ended. They lodged themselves into my nervous system, into my sleep, into my thoughts, into my sense of safety. After that came physical violence, hair pulled out by the handful, my body hitting the floor. Silence afterward it was just somehow louder than the yelling. I survived that night. But you know what? Survival came at a cost. Eventually, I escaped with my children. I did what people say you're supposed to do. I got out. I found help, and I tried to rebuild. But here's the part no one prepares you for. Leaving does not mean the danger leaves your body. Even after the threat was gone, my nervous system stayed on high alert. I checked locks constantly. I startled at every sound. I saw shadows where there were none. I couldn't sleep, and when I did, nightmares pulled me right back. My body began to shut down. I couldn't eat. I couldn't rest. I couldn't even laugh. That loss was devastating in a way that I still struggle to describe. I'd see something funny. I knew it was funny. I remembered what laughter felt like, but the laugh wouldn't come. It was like joy was behind a wall I could no longer reach. Eventually, my mind broke. It just broke under the weight of it all. I was hospitalized, medicated, discharged in a state where I could not function. And when I came home, my daughter had to feed me. She held a spoon to my mouth like I was a child. That moment shattered me. Not because she was kind, but because I had fallen so far from who I once was. I wanted to scream, not in pain, but in grief. I was still breathing, but I didn't recognize myself anymore. I gained a significant amount of weight from the medications. I gained close to 150 pounds. Over 150 pounds. I watched my body change into something unfamiliar. I was like 380 pounds. That was a lot of weight. Strangely, part of me, it just felt safer that way. Invisible, unnoticed, protected. I didn't want attention. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want anyone close enough to hurt me again. For years, nearly 5, I lived like a prisoner inside my own home. Did not go outside unless absolutely necessary. I kept curtains closed. I avoided people. I endured. People called it recovery, but it wasn't recovery. It was survival. And here's where gratitude gets complicated. I was grateful to be alive. Grateful I had escaped. Grateful my children were safe. Grateful God had spared me. But I was so empty. That emptiness wasn't sin. It was the cost of trauma. Your body cannot sprint through terror for years and then immediately settle into peace. It just doesn't work that way. God knows this. Healing did not come to me in a dramatic moment. It came slowly, through almost invisible steps. One day I stood at the door. That was all. Another day I opened it. Another day I stepped onto the porch. Another day I let sunlight touch my face. Another day I walked to the mailbox. And then another day I sat with my Bible and I read out loud, even though I felt nothing. I cooked simple meals. I kept my hands busy. I whispered prayers that sounded more like sighs. And slowly, not suddenly, something shifted. Not happiness, not joy, but presence. I began to feel moments again. Not all the time, and not consistently, but enough. Enough to remind me I was still here. If you feel empty, even though you are grateful, hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not faithless. You are not ungrateful. You are healing. Toxic positivity tells us we should be happy just because we survived, that if God delivered us, we owe Him cheerfulness. But Scripture never demands denial. God meets conflicted hearts with compassion, not condemnation. Gratitude and grief can live in the same body. Faith and exhaustion, they can exist at the same time. Jesus did not rush healing, and He did not shame wounds. He met people where they were, and He still does. If all you can do today is stay, that is enough. If all you can do is breathe, that is enough. If all you can do is whisper His name, that is enough. You are not behind. You are becoming. And the emptiness you feel is not the end of your story. It is the space where healing is slowly learning how to live. You are still here, and that matters more than you know. God does not waste pain. He doesn't just restore. He redeems. That means He takes what was meant for evil and He turns it into something holy. Not overnight, not all at once, but over time, through 1,000 unseen mercies. You might not feel it yet, but the healing already began the moment you said, God, I can't do this alone. He heard you, and He did not walk away. Scripture says in Psalms 34, verse 18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I know I say this verse all the time, but it just means so much to my heart. This verse isn't just poetry, it's a promise. God doesn't stand at a distance from suffering women. He draws near. He sits in the dark with you. He holds your hand when you can't lift your head. He weeps with you when your tears won't stop. That's who He is. He's not disappointed in your weariness. He's not pacing heaven waiting for you to pull it together. He's present. He's kind. He's gentle. Jesus never avoided hurting people. He walked straight toward them. The bleeding woman, He stopped for her. The woman at the well, He spoke with dignity. The widow burying her only son, He interrupted the funeral to give her back her joy. And He's still doing that. He's doing it in homes like yours. On quiet mornings when the coffee brews but your heart aches. In the moments when you worship with shaky hands. When you write prayers in your journal through tears, He sees it all, and it matters to Him. Sometimes we think healing only counts if it's fast, or dramatic, or full of praise reports. But some of the most powerful healing stories in the Bible happen slowly, quietly. Like the 10 lepers, only one returned to say thank you. The others were healed as they went. Healing often comes while we're still walking, still wondering, still wobbling. Faith doesn't mean you're never feeling fear. Faith means trusting God even when fear is still in the room. You can be tired and still faithful. You can be anxious and still beloved. You could be healing slowly and still held by the arms of a Father who never lets go. Maybe you don't feel strong. Maybe you feel like you're failing. Maybe all you did today was survive, but that's not nothing. That's not failure. That's not faith with dirt under its nails. Romans 8:26 says, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express." So even when you can't pray, heaven still hears you. Even when you can't speak, the Spirit is still moving. God is not waiting for a polished version of you to show up. He loves the messy you, the hurting you, is still healing you. He doesn't love you when you're strong. He loves you because He is. He loves you when the house is clean and when the laundry is piled, when the kids are thriving and when you're melting down, when you're smiling with guests and when you're crying in the bathroom. There is no version of you that He does not love. The enemy wants you to believe that you're disqualified, that because you fell apart, you must not have enough faith. But the truth is, you're still here. And that makes you a warrior. You've been through what others don't talk about. You've survived nights that would have broken most people. You've learned to breathe again after your lungs forgot how. That's not weakness. That's strength with scars. And God doesn't hide scars. He honors them. Even Jesus kept His. Your life is not over, and your value is not gone. Your purpose is not canceled. You're still a vessel of glory, still a daughter of the Most High, still called, still chosen, still loved. Isaiah 61:3 says, He gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. If all you feel is ashes right now, don't lose heart. He's still writing your story. You have not missed your calling, and you have not messed up too bad. You are definitely not too late. You're being restored, little by little, quietly, tenderly, like soil watered in secret, like light creeping in through the cracks, like breath returning to a weary body. It's happening, even now. So don't despise your slow days. Don't shame your quiet seasons. God isn't in a rush. He's in the room. You're allowed to take your time, and you are allowed to be human. And you are allowed to be deeply, wildly loved, even while you heal. The world may not understand your story, but Jesus does. He calls you beloved, still, now, and forever. So you keep showing up. You keep whispering His name and keep letting the light in, because even if you still feel empty, your cup is not forgotten. And the one who made you is faithful and will fill it again. And I'll see you next time.